Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It is time once again for the greatest podcast on earth. Yes, it is the greatest podcast on earth. I am making that declaration. Midnight's Edge After Dark. We are joined once again by Mr. Tom Connors. How you doing?
I'm doing the best I can, and now I've got to live up to that, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm doing just fine, I guess. Rob, how about yourself?
Nope, no pressure, Tom, no pressure. And I am doing fine, and we are joined by the Grand Poobah, the Master of Ceremonies, Andre.
Hey, everyone.
Yes, and I am, of course, your narrator supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo, coming to you from Shabby Road Studios, home of, allegedly, the birthplace of the hamburger. And I'm not making that up either. Allegedly, this is the birthplace of the hamburger. Not Shabby Road Studios, but the town. That's up for debate. But anyway, we've got a bit of a tight show for you, phrasing. Tom, why don't you kick it off for us?
Well, it was an interesting weekend at the box office, kind of a scary one. Ooh, if Tyler Perry's Boo 2, A Madea Halloween, made $21 million, proving that he can still rake it in at the box office. Geostorm debuted at number 2 with $13 million. Happy Death Day dropped all the way down to number 3 with $9 million. Blade Runner barely hanging on, still in the top 5 at number 4 with 7.3. Only the Brave debuts at number 5 with $6 million on the button almost. The Foreigner dropped down from 3rd place to 6th with 5.7. That's the Jackie Chan film. It still staying pretty strong in the top 10 at number 7 with 3.4. Number 9, American Made, dropped down to from the 6th place with 3.1. The Kingsman, which is doing very well overseas, rounds off our top 10 with $3 million. Now, you might have noticed I skipped over number 8. Well, number 8 was The Snowman with $3.3 million, and Andre happened to review this last week here on Midnight's Edge After Dark and had a few things to say about it. Andre?
Yes, if you saw my review, you'll know that I was pretty disappointed with that movie. And I was going mild on it compared to most others who absolutely hated it, which honestly I can't blame them for, because the director really dropped the ball on that one, which is disappointing, because that means we can kiss any more Harry Hole movies goodbye for quite a long time. And if you've read any of the books, certainly the later ones, then you'll see that that is actually a loss to the movie industry. But that aside, speaking of people who don't like it, there is now another one who has not so much voiced, but certainly demonstrated his displeasure with the movie, and that would be the author of the whole shebang, Joel Nesbø. This didn't get much press coverage in the States, but what happened, which got some coverage in Norway, was that he requested to have his name taken off the movie. So that says pretty much everything right there.
Right.
Yeah, so we're looking at the Snowman and Alan Smithy production, written by Alan Smithy, or...
No, it's still based on a book by Joel Nesbø, but it's no longer executive produced by Joel Nesbø, so that's a marquee credit that he could have removed, which it did have removed, because he was never really consulted with how to go about the movie. What he did was that he handed the rights over to the working title production company, and at the time it was Martin Scorsese who was attached to direct. Martin Scorsese would, of course, in time, step back from directing and instead serve as an executive producer, in name only, while Thomas Alfredson handled the directing duties. And Alfredson wanted to make his own movie. Nesbø, the author, stayed out of his way, and the end result was that the movie turned out to be a complete and total disaster. So yeah. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last, but it never is cool when something like that happens. Especially with a project that you actually were excited about, like I was for The Snowman.
You were saying to me again the other day about how the director basically didn't get to make the movie he wanted to make, and they released an unfinished film, in so many words, and it's like, even the director can't get behind his own movie at this point.
Yeah, and that's just so embarrassing. There's no excuse for that, for not finishing the movie. There's literally no excuse for it. So, I don't know what the heck happened there. I can guess that it had something to do with the director, coming up with his own vision instead of the one that was so clearly laid down by the book, and his vision didn't work. Maybe it wasn't clear enough, maybe it didn't survive the transition from within the confines of his head to something on the paper and then to the screen. Whatever happened, it didn't work. And they failed so miserably in such an amateurish way. And it just sucks that it had to happen to a project that I was interested in. But oh well, that's how it goes sometimes.
What do you got for us in the roundup?
Ladies and gentlemen, for the roundup. Well, buckaroos, it's time to saddle up and head on out with the barn and for the roundup. Yeehaw! First of all, Hasbro posts a third quarter gain, but warns that the Toys R Us bankruptcy could hurt its Star Wars sales. This story comes from a Deadline. Hasbro has reported decent third quarter results this morning, with revenue rising 7% to a total of $1.79 billion versus $1.6 billion in the previous year's quarter. And net earnings inching up 3% to $265.6 million, or $2.09 a share, compared with the $257.8 million and the $2.03 per share in 2016 for this period. Chairman and CEO Brian Goldner cited a challenging economic environment in the UK and Brazil, and said that Toys R Us's bankruptcy filing in the United States and Canada caused a negative impact on our quarterly revenues and operating profit. While the company said it would continue to work closely with Toys R Us heading into the holiday period, it lowered fourth quarter earnings projections to 4% to 7% gain due to the major retailers' issues. So how does this impact our news here? Well, what do they sell at Toys R Us? They sell Star Wars stuff. And it goes on to say, sales for merchandise tied to Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, could bear some of the brunt of the toy retail issues, but should build toward the first quarter and springtime of 2008 around home entertainment window, exec said. Investors pounded the stock on the news, sending shares down almost 8% in morning trading to $90.32. So, as I always say when we report about news in the stock market, someone's getting rich and it ain't us.
Right. And I'll say it now, so save somebody in the comments the trouble. You said 2008, you mean 2018.
2018, yes. 2018, yeah.
If I had paid more attention, then I would have shorted that stock and gotten more rich on that. But yeah.
Yeah, like I always say, somebody's getting rich and it ain't us. So, anyway, moving on to the next story. We have a lot of Doctor Who fans actually in the Midnight's Edge group and who listen to Midnight's Edge. And this one comes from Deadline. Doctor Who gets new cast members, sets details on next season. An all-new cast has been announced for BBC's long-running Doctor Who series, whose next season bows during fall 2018 via BBC America. The new season will be a 10-week run of 50-minute episodes, kicking off with an hour-long show for its opener. The upcoming season will be highlighted by the appearance of Jodie Whittaker, the first female to play the lead character of the Doctor, which was previously announced. Whittaker will be the 13th Time Lord, taking over from Peter Capaldi, who officially departs the Doctor Who Christmas. Who officially departs following the Doctor Who Christmas special airing during the holiday season. Joining Whittaker on her journey through time and space will be Bradley Walsh, whose character is named Graham, Tosin Cole, who will play Ryan, and Mandeep Gill, who will play Yasmin. Also joining the series is Sharon D. Clarke, formerly of the Holby City Medical Drama. So I don't know if we have any fans of Holby City out there, but new head writer and executive producer Chris Chib. Now I keep on mispronounce his last name. His name is Chris Chibnall of Broadchurch decided to shake up the casting. He is also credited with Whittaker's casting as the first female Doctor. Chibnall says the new Doctor is going to need new friends. We're thrilled to welcome Mandeep, Tosin, and Bradley to the Doctor Who family. They're three of Britain's brightest talents, and we can't wait to see them dive in to brand new adventures with Jodie's doctor. Alongside them, we're delighted that Sharon D. Clarke is also joining the show. I don't know, you a Doctor Who fan, Andre?
Don't get me wrong, I love my British TV. I'm a huge fan of Allo Allo, The British Empire, Red Dwarf, The Young Ones, Dad's Army, Bottom. But I've actually never seen Doctor Who. I know it's embarrassing, but it's true. That being said, though, I know there has been a lot of controversy about this casting, but for the fans, I really hope it works out, and that everyone involved brings their A game and they make this a memorable twist.
Otherwise, we're just going to go right back to something familiar. So, but anyway, actually, this is a bit of a follow-up to the story about Netflix and their wanting to produce 80 feature films over the next year. Netflix preempts Kate, eyes April start, and a $25 million budget for a female-centric action script. This comes to us from Deadline. On the heels of Ted Sarandos' startling revelation to the financial community that Netflix aims to generate 80 feature films in 2018, the streaming service just took off the table a hot script by giving it basically a production commitment and a $25 million budget, sources said. Scripted by Umair Aleem, Kate is a hard action film with a female protagonist that sources said is evocative of Kill Bill and La Femme Nikita. The writer's vision of the film is this. Picture Cate Blanchett, now she's not attached to the film, he's just using an example. Picture Cate Blanchett, who is not attached, as Lee Marvin in a hard-boiled action thriller about a woman who has 24 hours to solve her own murder. There is aggressive progress to the production language in the deal, and the project eyes a start date in April as Netflix quickly searches for the right director and star. Kate will be guided by the following producers: Atomic Blonde's Kelly McCormick, John Wick co-director David Leitch, and Brian Unklis, who produced The Hunger Games and the upcoming Toronto sensation I, Tonya, with Margot Robbie. Clubhouse Pictures' Scott Morgan will oversee it. So it sounds interesting. But this whole 24 hours to solve your own murder, that's been done before, hasn't it?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very familiar. We're going into familiar.
To me, it sounds a little bit like Crank with Jason Statham. But that was an awesome movie. So yeah, hopefully this will be excellent too. They certainly have some impressive names involved.
Now, Andre, you said you like British television, but this was a short-lived show in America. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Dana Carvey show, or if you're familiar with Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
There's a new documentary about his short-lived sitcom. Well, it wasn't a sitcom; it was a sketch show, actually.
It was like his own version of Saturday Night Live. Yeah, I watched every episode, man.
That was a good show, actually.
When it aired, mind you, not on Hulu or anything else. When it aired.
Yeah, I remember actually watching it when it was on the air. Too Funny to Fail trailer, a Hulu documentary, digs into the Dana Carvey show. This comes from Slash Film. Dana Carvey was once one of the most popular cast members on Saturday Night Live. His star had risen so high after leaving the late-night sketch series that he launched his own self-titled primetime sketch comedy series on network television. So why did it fail? A Hulu documentary called Too Funny to Fail, The Life and Death of the Dana Carvey Show, takes a deep dive into the creation and short-lived sketch comedy series. Why is a canceled sketch comedy series of any interest? Well, the Dana Carvey Show featured the likes of Louis C.K., Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, Robert Smigel, John Glazer, filmmaker Charlie Kaufman, and 30 Rock executive producer Robert Carlock, all before they made it big. With so much talent in one place, why wasn't this show a hit?
I'll tell you why.
Tell us why, Tom.
The show was kind of a hit. The problem was Dana Carvey didn't know how to behave in primetime.
Yeah. Stephen Colbert actually was on Howard Stern. He talks about the one sketch that actually drove a lot of viewers away.
Puppies. I love puppies.
One of the funniest sketches actually they did was Leftover Beatle Memories, because it happened around the same time as the anthology. And Stephen Colbert as George Harrison. I killed a man once. Record company said it was okay. But Andre, if you've never seen the Dana Carvey show, it's very funny.
It was.
Yeah, and for you younger viewers out there, it was very funny. Definitely check it out.
I'm really interested in this documentary, though, even if I'm not familiar with the Dana Carvey show, and barely Dana Carvey himself. Although I did really like the movie where he played a guy with amnesia, like who couldn't form new memories. I forget the title of the movie.
Oh, Clean Slate. That's a great movie.
Yeah, that was an awesome movie. But anyway, like, this is just the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff that we deal in. So I'm looking forward to this documentary.
Well, the sad part is this documentary will probably take you longer to watch than all the episodes of the show. Because, like...
Was it only, like...
6 episodes, I think it made it on the air, yeah. And I think they're half hour each, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, literally you could watch them in a quick afternoon. But I'm really interested in this documentary. There's been some pretty good documentaries announced lately with the Andy Kaufman one from Netflix. Now this one, I'm got some good documentaries to look forward to.
I have to say, I'm really a huge fan of Netflix film slate. I haven't seen all of their movies, but most of the original Netflix productions I've seen, the most recent one being Whatever Happened to Monday, they're really quite good. So, yeah, all for it. And that they're going to make 80 movies, that's quite a tall order. But I just hope that there's going to be some really great, original, unique movies that wouldn't have been made anywhere else among them.
One thing we didn't really point out in our last show where we talked about the whole thing, a lot of these are possibly going to be foreign films made specifically for foreign markets as well, so I'm sure that's something to factor in as well. Anyway, so yeah, moving on in the roundup.
So our final story in the roundup, this comes to us from Variety. It is official, Justin Timberlake will headline the Super Bowl halftime show. It's official, Justin Timberlake tweeted Sunday afternoon that he will perform at Super Bowl halftime show in 2018. The game is set for Sunday, February 4th at Minneapolis' US Bank Stadium. Variety reported he was the frontrunner on September 27th. Now, why is this important? Because it was Justin Timberlake that instigated the famous wardrobe malfunction that led to the Great American Freakout back in 2004. And then all you saw in the news was, oh my God, Janet Jackson exposed herself at the Super Bowl halftime show. It was shocking. Let's take a look at it.
It was actually addressed in an early Film Buff documentary that you can find on this channel, actually, about how PG-13 has basically de-evolved in the last 30 years or so. So yeah. We have one question, and then before we end the show, and since we have Andre here, we haven't taken a lot of questions here in a while, and that's because I'm sure Andre would like us to say, because we're going to be doing our big AMA here real soon, so be looking out for that on the main channel. But one of the head administrator actually on our Facebook group had a special question for us today, so we're going to take a question for the first time in a while, which we will be getting back to here shortly. All right, Neil, the administrator on our group, has this question for us. So Taika Waititi of Thor Ragnarok commented that he wouldn't be up for directing Star Wars. That said, what other projects and franchise would you like to see him or any other comic book movie director tackle outside of comic book movies and Star Wars? For example, I'd love to see one of the MCU directors do He-Man or Thundercats. Andre?
Well, I think it depends a lot on which director, because what we have to keep in mind that Marvel does with their MCU is that they don't find typically genre directors. They find directors like Taika Waititi and James Gunn who do their other unique personal movies that have like this particular flair, if you will, that fits with a certain aspect of the MCU. And they hire them in to do that. Sometimes it really works, like for instance James Gunn, and by all accounts Taika Waititi. Other times it doesn't work quite as well. Of the MCU directors, there are some that I think would be really good for other things, and others have really botched it big time. Like for instance the director of Thor: The Dark World. He didn't do amazing in Thor: The Dark World, and he certainly botched Terminator Sega Genesis afterwards. But some of the directors have really nailed it and show that they can do something completely different from what they've done before. Like for instance the directors of Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Captain America: Civil War and the upcoming Avengers: Infinity War. They really impressed, and I think that they can do a lot of stuff. And I'd be very comfortable with them taking on He-Man.
Given the parameters of the question, I would like to see either Joe Johnston or the Russo brothers direct a movie based on Clive Cussler's Dirk Pitt. If you're unfamiliar, if you don't recognize that name or you might have forgotten it, Dirk Pitt was the main character in the 2005 film Sahara. It's based on the character is based on Clive Cussler's Dirk Pitt series. There's been over a dozen books, I have to say. They're really fantastic action adventure books. Sort of Indiana Jones before Indiana Jones was Indiana Jones. So I think they could do very well with that source material.
I'm gonna probably make a lot of people happy in our listening audience who are huge fans of Midnight's Edge and say, I would love to see James Gunn direct a Ghostbusters movie. Like, if we actually were to get like Ghostbusters 3, I think he could handle it. If we couldn't get like Edgar Wright or somebody like that, I think James Gunn could really have that sensibility to bring both sides that you need that somebody didn't have. I'm gonna probably make a lot of people happy in our listening audience who are huge fans of Midnight's Edge and say, I would love to see James Gunn direct a Ghostbusters movie. Like, if we actually were to get like Ghostbusters 3, I think he could handle it. If we couldn't get like Edgar Wright or somebody like that, I think James Gunn could really have that sensibility to bring both sides that you need that somebody didn't have to do the remake of Ghostbusters in last year. So yeah, I think that'd be a good one. I don't know.
For He-Man, I would want someone who understands the significance instead of trying to force it into another kind of vision. You need someone that understands the importance that that particular brand has to a lot of people and why. And I'm sure that there are some Marvel directors who could do that, but outside of the Russo brothers, there are none that stand out as like instant perfect fits to that end for me. There is one, though, another Marvel director I think could be great for yet another property. The director of Doctor Strange, Scott Derrickson. I'd be very comfortable with him taking on Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have an idea of who might be of your pet project, who the director might be, why don't you let us know in the comments? So anyway, that brings us to a close of yet another episode. We'd like to thank Mr. Tom Connors once again.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for listening.
We'd like to thank our Master of Ceremonies, the Nacho Supreme, Andre.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
It's your show. What are you talking about? Thanks for having it. And I'm once again your Narrator Supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo. And if you like the show, and if you like what we do here at Midnight's Edge, then please hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to click the bell icon. That way you'll be notified when new content is uploaded. And if you really, really, really like the show, then consider supporting us through Patreon. Your support through Patreon helps us make the show better by investing in equipment, mics, software, and other stuff to make the show better for you. And by becoming a patron, you will receive bonus content, special making of videos, outtakes, bloopers, behind the edge documentaries, the full uncut audio to the Alien mini documentary, and I keep bringing that up because you don't know how difficult that was for me to record.
And we have a lot of new stuff coming up there, so yeah.
Plus, our Patreon members will receive advance notice for upcoming mini documentaries, such as you're going to hear it here first, the Tardigrades mini documentary, and how that relates to Star Trek Discovery and the whole thing. We are working on that for you as we speak. Well, not as we speak. We're recording this as we speak. But anyway, so keep your eye out for that, the upcoming Tardigrades mini documentary. You'll be hearing about that very soon. So we'd like to thank everybody once again for joining us, and we will catch you next time.